this was the first Purdy pick versus Baltimore. So this is something that we see from Kyle Shanahan, and I've heard some criticism from different quarterbacks over the years about how Kyle Shanahan designs his offense. And they go, sometimes this I don't fully understand what they're trying to do here. And I think it's always because they're looking at things through the lens of a quarterback, not a play designer. And Kyle Shanahan sometimes will get into this thing where he designs something so specifically for how a specific defense plays their a certain coverage that he believes he's going to get. And so it's very reliant upon you have to have the exact look that you're going for. And he's very confident that he's going to get that look. And when he gets it, it's amazing. Guys are wide open. Everyone's calling him the genius. Everyone's saying this is why Shanahan is the way he is. When it doesn't work, you can get plays like this. And so what we have here is this was the very first pick from Brock Purdy. And you're going to have Debo running kind of a through route. This is a variation on a double post. Okay. So you got Debo running a through route / kind of post. It's either a lazy post, which is sometimes what you see on film from Debo, or it's a through route. Hard to tell 100%. And then you have Ayuk running kind of what's called a widened hammer or a widened post route. So he's going to widen a little bit and then he's going to hit a post. Okay, let's go run a little bit deeper. So we'll see. What they're expecting here is they're expecting cover 3. So I'm going to switch this to blue. So they're expecting deep thirds here. Okay, from Baltimore. And so what they're going to do with Kittle is Kittle's going to kind of come up here and he's going to run a little out and sit. And then Juszczyk's going to run a little whip route and come back in. Is what's called a choice out China usually. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the deep third guy to drive on Kittle and occupy the backside hook curl in this cover 3 onto Juszczyk. And that's going to occupy both of these guys out of this field. So then you get a clear stretch on the middle safety. And so as Purdy drops back, he's just got to read the deep safety. And normally, the way that the Ravens will play this, they're going to want this will linebacker to end up matching that over route, that through route from Debo. So they've got a way to occupy. Let's clean this up a little bit. They've got a way to occupy the hook curl here with Juszczyk running this little choice out China. They've got a way to occupy the deep third corner with Kittle, because I saw this several times in the game that the way that Baltimore was running this, their corners were matching any of these sort of intermediate routes on the outside. And so now you have a clear stretch. And so if they're in cover 3, you're going to have probably Brandon Ayuk wide open, wide freaking open, or Debo is wide open. So it's probably going to be 1 to 2 Ayuk Debo. Most likely you would get Ayuk here wide open for a touchdown. The problem is that Baltimore didn't run cover 3. And so you see they're going to widen this
That's
out
what I was
again.
trying to say.
Yeah,
There it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, they're widening McCaffrey out. And the idea is you're going to widen this guy a little bit too. Okay, you want to widen the other linebacker. So you're opening up that middle of the
Space.
field so that you can have this horizontal stretch of a deep third safety. That's what they're trying to do. And the problem here is that in this coverage that Baltimore called, you have no good answers. So Baltimore ends up running a cover 6 here. So Baltimore is we're in a deep quarter, and then we're in a deep half. Now, really, you would think that the middle of the field would be open, but the way that Baltimore ran their cover 6 a lot in this game is that Humphrey or whoever the corner that was on the cover 2 side, anything that went vertical, he would match. So the deep half safety was actually more playing almost like a trick safety, or he's sitting there just helping anything kind of down the seams was what he was really playing. So you don't have anything to really grab this safety and pull him wide. And that's what ends up happening here, because Brock Purdy's going to see the safety go and he's going to think, "Oh, I can hit Debo in the middle." But as we watch this play out, you can see Hamilton is not worried about anything deep outside. He's watching down the seam. That's where his eyes are. And you're going to see Debo's going to come up through here. Brock Purdy sees a little window and he's going to try and fit it in here. But if you see how they're able to match all this up, Humphrey's able to take Kittle. I thought watching the broadcast that Juszczyk was open and he wasn't. They're going to be able to match on Juszczyk. Humphrey's going to take Debo coming through. And then you got these two deep quarters guys bracketing
Brandon
Ayuk
Ayuk.
on his post. And really, McCaffrey, he's not even here as an outlet. He's just kind of there to widen somebody. So, Purdy said he got to progress here. I don't see where you can even progress to. I don't see a good option to check down because
Yeah,
you got a guy driving. This is covered. You got Brackett over here, and you got CMC just sitting here. I mean, the only guy that looks somewhat open is Debo, and the safety's just sitting because he's not threatened outside. And so this is a play. Kyle, Purdy makes this play worse. Kyle got out schemed here.
I thought that happened several times this game. But the problem is the context. It's 1st and 10. It's 1st and 10 on the 15.
Yeah,
And so whenever
Right.
you hear Purdy talk about like progressing, man, you hit the out route and you throw the ball out of bounds, you ground it, you put the ball in a safe
Right.
space, all
Right.
those things. This is 1st and 10. You're using CMC as a decoy that's not even running a route.
right.
And he's not even in the backfield, so the illusion, and this is why I think one of my biggest problems with Kyle and the scheming and all the things going on right now, when you take away the threat of running, those linebackers get to go straight to their kind of, drop sets and pay attention to the routes. They're not looking in the backfield. They're immediately opened up to Kyle Juszczyk and Kittle on that 2x2 side that way. And it's just like, man, you are giving them the answers to the test. And that's what's driving me crazy. And so that's a 1st and 10. If it was 3rd and 10, Brock wants to force that throw in. That's one thing. But he didn't recognize, it was kind of like a modified cover 6 on the back end whenever the corner didn't drop. And it was open. Like if you throw that ball to Debo, whenever he's in his break, it could have been a thing, but he didn't recognize the coverage fast enough. He even said that in the presser. He's like, I should have recognized his quarters covered to that side. And so, yeah, that's the thing. Don't put the ball in jeopardy on 1st down. It's your first play in the red zone. It's 1st and 10 from the 15 in the first quarter of the first drive. Not one run play.
And you had just moved the ball really well, and your defense had forced Baltimore to 3 and out. And this is the criticism we see from especially like guys like JT O'Sullivan or maybe Chase Daniel. They will talk about the design sometimes of the 49ers offense that they don't like it as a quarterback. Kurt Warner has said this. Going back to the Jimmy G days. He's like, sometimes I feel like it's drop back and then turn around. This guy's going to be open. And when you start looking at the play design, if they're in cover 3 again, that is a beautifully designed play against the way the Ravens play cover 3, but they weren't in that. And sometimes you feel like, with Kyle Shanahan, it's kind of like, I almost compare it to, when you have like a guy like Patrick Mahomes, that sometimes Patrick Mahomes will put the ball in harm's way and do things that when you really stop and think about it, you go, that would drive you nuts. The way he can do some things, especially like the last game they played. But then he does so many other things really, really well. You completely overlook that sometimes. Do we take that same approach here with Kyle Shanahan and say, you know what, I'm willing to overlook that because so many other times, so many other games, he does this sort of thing and calls it at the exact perfect time. How do you feel about that? Is that something that we just say this is just what we live with Kyle Shanahan, or you say, you know what, I really wish he would start on some of these plays, especially 1st down in the red zone, give his quarterback multiple answers against multiple coverages. What do you think, Wayne?
Yeah, you have to give your quarterback options because the first option is not going to always be there. I mean, coverage shrinks in that area, right? Like there's not enough space. It worked because we had plenty of space and you had guys kind of like stretching the field and other players doing their thing to create the space for those passes to George Kittle to be wide open across the middle. And you saw it throughout the game. That's how it worked when you had distance and space, to be created. But in the red zone, it shrinks. And so when you said Kyle got out schemed, he absolutely did. Like he thought his guy would have been open because he thought it was going to be a certain coverage, and his quarterback was told to throw the ball. Like that's the issue. Opposed to Brock Purdy realizing that this doesn't look right. This might not work. And I don't like it when Kyle, you have a guy like Brock Purdy who clearly has a great mental for the game, the aspect of the game. He's a very student of the game, right? He's very smart. He's one of the quickest processing throwing quarterbacks in the league. He's able to get through his progressions. But when you only leave him with one progression and he's going through the progressions, but if there's nobody open, like That's the throw. And then we're saying throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. Where? Debo was open. Let's not say that he wasn't open. Debo was open. It was just a bad moment. And Kyle Hamilton, if it's any other safety, possibly that ball gets dropped. But it wasn't. It was Kyle Hamilton. And so, like, I think he plays a huge part into why that ball was even picked, whether it was cover 3, cover 6, cover whatever. It doesn't matter. They had a better player out there on the football field. When it comes to Kyle Shanahan, I think what makes me more upset is the simple fact, like John alluded to earlier, dude, it's 1st and 10, and you can run the ball once. What if you get 19 yards on a run? I mean, explosive runs work just as well as explosive pass plays. And we need to find a way to remain balanced. I don't understand why Kyle just felt like it had to be throw, 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 throw. I don't get it.
And yeah. And one thing to also remember, this was in the scripted portion. So, this was their very first scripted red zone play. So whatever they had seen from film, they had seen the very first play they wanted to come out, and they were believing, they were so confident, they went all week saying, we believe they are going to be in cover 3 zone first play in the red zone. They were so confident in that they drew this whole play up, and then it backfires on you. And I agree with you exactly. And John, I want to hear your thought on this. I would love to see a test the waters play there if this is the scripted thing. Come out in this formation and motion CMC out, do a little bump motion, then bring Debo around on a reverse or something, okay, or on a
Didn't
little
do that
sweep.
one time.
Didn't
do it once all game.
Right. Like do something where you're going to be able to see how they react to this motion, what coverage are they in, and then we can go for the shot play. And if you only get 1 yard or -1 yard on that play, you're fine because you got the information you needed. That was my only issue with this. I'm like, this is in the scripted portion. You were so confident that you were going to have cover 3 in this, that this is what you called, that you didn't even try and test. You didn't even do any data mining to figure out, what coverage you were in. And John, you had coached for a long time. How does that make you feel?
Well, one, like, I'm really big. I was a defensive minded coach. That's kind of how, DC was my first, coordinator position and whatever else. You don't turn the ball over in the red zone. You don't put the ball in jeopardy in the red zone. And the 49ers have the second best red zone percentage in the NFL throughout this year. So this is a small sample size, and that's why it was so weird to me. Because how do the 49ers win their games? Their physicality, run game, you establish everything, move the pocket, play action, boots, all those things. They didn't exist this game. And so you go out there 1st and 10, and, back to your question earlier, Johnny, about Shanahan says, do this, throw it to this guy. And we saw it in the other scripted portion in the very first drive of the third quarter. It's 3rd and 6. I think it was 3rd and 6. Might have been 3rd and 4.
Yeah.
Come out in an empty set again. And you've got one-on-one coverage dictated on the outside to Brandon Ayuk. Instead, you throw a little curl route to Willie Snead with freaking 2 of the most athletic linebackers in the NFL and a nickel guy sitting on him. But that was Purdy's first read, and he's supposed to throw that based on the alignment pre-snap. I get it. But at some point, somebody has to say Ayuk one-on-one with their worst cornerback, or Willie Snead against the NFC player of the week and one of the most athletic linebackers. Like, that seems simple to me. And that's my problem, Johnny. These scripted issues where Shanahan is at his best. I'm putting my kids through college betting 49ers scoring the first possession. It did not work this week. But overall, they're kind of the best, in the NFL at it. Kyle sometimes has to be checked. And it's just like, man, if you just would have ran the ball, like you said, data mine it, figure out what they're going to do in this coverage, get your validation, then try to take advantage of it. You don't have to freaking go gung-ho on 1st and 10 from the 15 on the first drive.
So we've had some struggles offensively against the NFC North, except for the Steelers, apparently. But when you look at our worst offensive performances of the year, you're talking the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens. None of these were good offensive performances, and all from the AFC North. Did I say NFC North? I meant AFC North if I did. Anyways.
Hey, we lost to the NFC North too.
Yeah. But do you guys start to worry, with what we've seen going against these defenses out of the AFC North? I think right now, to me, as I look at the landscape of the AFC, honestly, right now, the 2 teams I'm I'm foreseeing in the Super Bowl on their end is either the Ravens or the Browns. I know that sounds crazy. We want to hype up Buffalo, Miami. I think they're playing good. I think the defenses of the Browns and the Ravens are going to end up, you're going to have a defensive showdown in the AFC Championship game. If the seeding works out for it to be Browns and Ravens, I think that's going to be an amazing AFC Championship game. Are you concerned with seeing how we've performed against both those defenses if this was a Super Bowl preview? Many people were going into this game saying this is going to be a Super Bowl preview. It's going to be that, and then it being a blowout, and everyone went, well, that's going to be a lame Super Bowl if that's a Super Bowl. Are you concerned?
No, not at all. Because at the end of the day, this could have been simply something Kyle just testing the waters, knowing that you're going to see this team some point in the Super Bowl. You possibly will see him again, and then you'll hit him with the haymaker or something that they've never seen before. I think this was a game to go through where they were testing and trialing out certain things. To see Kyle get trumped like on that first particular, interception that we just talked about. I never said that it was a bad play call. What I said was they should have ran the ball, period. You can live for another throw. There's plenty of other high percentage calls you could have done. Debo runs a route. He's open for a split second and the window shrunk. It's kind of like what it is. But at the end of the day, I don't think they have to worry about any team in the NFL because the only way the Niners lose games is if they lose games. Like they literally lose these games when stuff isn't clicking, right? When they're not they're not in a rhythm, when they're not just doing things properly, right? We kind of know what these other teams were. We know what the Baltimore Ravens are. They're going to be a defensive team with Lamar Jackson, right? You don't necessarily have to worry about anybody else. We know what the Cleveland Browns are. They're going to ground and pound the ball, and they're going to try. Now they got a Joe Flacco as the quarterback, so now they're going to throw the ball, right? They're going to get that ball down the field. He's a big-time thrower. So you kind of know what these teams are. They're defense, but the Niners are defensive too, and they have to find that, they have ways that they can, I feel like, can trump these defenses. I believe in Kyle, and I believe in the players that much.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.